To begin with the engineering studies, here's how the vehicles fared in the bridging comparison. The M60a1e2 spanned 106 inches, easily satisfying the requirement for tanks of the M60 series. That was the best it could do. But the greater body length and an adjustment of suspension enabled the MBT to bridge nearly a foot additional, 117 inches. Another aspect of a tank's versatility is answered by the question, how high a vertical wall can it scale? Earlier, the M60 had climbed an obstacle of 36 inches. On another, at 42 inches, it succeeded, but with difficulty. This one, at 46 inches, proved beyond its capability. The 70 had climbed the lower ones more easily. At 46 inches, the variable suspension was called into play. Partway up, it stopped, so the engineers could attach a safety cable, just in case. It turned out that the cable was unnecessary, and BT-70 succeeded where the M60 had failed. Here, the two vehicles matched performance up a 60% grade. The M60 clocked in at about 1.5 miles an hour. The MBT-70 did it nearly 3 times as fast, and it was still accelerating at the top. The next portion of this study compared speed and acceleration of the vehicles under a number of conditions. Here they were matched side by side on the paved road test course. Except for the first few seconds, the M60 was no match for the MBT-70 in acceleration. On this run, the 70 accelerated to 30 miles per hour in 18 seconds. By contrast, it took 43 seconds for the 60 to reach nearly the same speed. Maximum speeds on this hard surface straightaway, MBT-70, 44 miles an hour. M60, a shade under 30. This sandy loam course is known as the hog wallow. MBT-70 turned in the same kind of performance, achieving average speeds about 50% greater than the 60. Later, the vehicles moved on to more speed runs on a course engineered to duplicate typical conditions of a secondary unpaved road. The M60 showed up well. Over this kind of rough terrain, the 70's suspension is raised for a smoother ride that permits greater speeds without excessive shock to the vehicle or the crew. The run set an all-time speed record, faster than any other vehicle had ever negotiated the course in the history of testing at Aberdeen. Here's a slow motion view as it takes off again. 53 tons flying through the air. The shock of landing is absorbed by the suspension system. Several different cross-country courses are used at Aberdeen to obtain a measure of performance under a variety of conditions. This would include a steep downhill grade. The M60 showed a tendency to bottom on the bumps, with the subsequent loss of both speed and crew comfort. Hitting the same bump, MBT-70 again takes to the air. Here's a comparison of how it looks from the driver's point of view. We're riding now in the M60. Notice especially the angle of vision, as in most tanks the driver is relatively low to the ground. Now watch how the vehicle responds over the bump. The same thing once again, this time riding in the MBT-70. The driver is higher, giving a better view of objects directly in front of the vehicle. And here's how the 70 takes the same bump at 4 times the speed. On each of the 6 different courses over which these runs were made, MBT-70 gave a better ride for the crew, and at speeds that averaged 25 to 50% faster. Yet, these figures are only indirectly related to the ultimate question: how would the vehicles compare in battle?